Heide Göttner-Abendroth, nacida en Alemania durante la Segunda Guerra Mundial, es una filósofa y antropóloga que ha dedicado su vida al estudio de las sociedades matriarcales. Estudió filosofía en la Universidad de Múnich y se sumergió en el mundo de la antropología, lo que la llevó a viajar a China para investigar sobre una de las últimas sociedades matriarcales vivas. Sus investigaciones la convirtieron en una referente mundial, siendo conocida como la madre del matriarcado. Es también fundadora de la Academia Internacional HAGIA, un centro de estudios independiente y libre donde se comparten investigaciones sobre el matriarcado. Hoy, en el Ágora, Charlas con Ángela, conoceremos más sobre la vida y el legado de esta mujer inspiradora.
Muy buenas tardes, amigas y amigos. Bienvenido a su programa El Ágora, Charlas con Ángela. Hoy tenemos una invitada muy querida, mi amiga, mi gran amiga, Heide Göttner-Abendroth.
Thank you for inviting me, Ángela. Thank you.
Heide, primero que todo, vamos a hablar de esa infancia tuya en una Alemania en guerra, nacida en 1940, en medio de tanta cosa, y luego salir de Alemania Oriental a Alemania Occidental.
Yes, I was born in Second World War, and I have only very little, very little. I can remember very little at this war because I was a little child. I remember that the grown-ups, the adults, were very much afraid about things happening around us. But I lived in the countryside, not in a city, so we were left from the worst results of Second World War. And I grew up in the German Democratic Republic, East Germany, which was then under Russian dictatorship. However, I have good memories at my time at school. For at school, we had small classes, very young teachers, very committed teachers, and we learned about, we were taught in the Marxian worldview. But what was important for me was that this Marxian worldview focused very strongly on societal patterns and society and how society can change and develop. I think this was a deep impression to me, for I'm continued throughout all my life to be occupied with societal patterns, with society, but not with patriarchal society, with matriarchal ones. But this was, I think, an heritage of my childhood. And when I was about 12, my parents fled to West Germany because they were dissident and they were suppressed, and we children were not allowed to have a higher education. So my parents fled to West Germany to grant us a higher education and access to university. But at first, in my youth, I was a teenager then, the education, the school system in West Germany was very disappointing. For there were big classes and very old teachers who were tired and were looking for their retirement. And even beating was typical at this time. These teachers were beating the pupils, even girls, and I thought it was shocking. And the education was very low, so I was really disappointed and not happy. I was unhappy in the school system. And this was the time of my teenager time, and okay, I could go to secondary school, I could have higher education, but it was to some extent boring to me. We had to learn a lot and to learn by heart a lot, but there was no deeper discussion about societal patterns, about development of society, no deeper discussion of this. So I found this school system very superficial. And my colleagues, the girls in my class were occupied with their beautiful dresses and what all yet they can buy and that all they can have. So it was an atmosphere of consumerism around me, even at this time. I didn't share in this, and I tried to get through this school system as an unhappy pupil until I made my bachelor, and then I could go to university. So this was experience in my childhood. Of course, when my parents fled to West Germany, they had to leave behind all what they had in East Germany, their house, which they inherited from their grandfather, the gardens and all. And I had to experience a situation of poverty in West Germany, even if my girl colleagues were discussing their consumerism and their beautiful dresses and so on. Really, sometimes it was disgusting for me. And it sharpened my view on what's going on in the society in West Germany. And I think I started from the very beginning to look at it in a critical way.
Qué interesante, ¿verdad? Que quizá eso fue lo que la marcó a usted para decidir ser una revolucionaria verdaderamente y tratar de cambiar el mundo como lo estaba haciendo. Heide, una pregunta ya en este momento, ¿en qué momento usted entró a la universidad en Múnich y cómo fue esa, ese vivir suyo como universitaria?
When I went to university, I hoped to free a more open and more world-reflecting mindset. But of course, I could study a lot, I could learn a lot, and I studied philosophy. At first, I studied historical philosophy, and I was not satisfied with this because nothing I could hear. I learned one system after the other, from antiquity to modern philosophy and so on and so on, and no word about women. I was a young mother at this time, and I had a self-awareness of a woman. I didn't hear anything at university about women. It was as if women did not exist. And this turned my mood into another way of being bored. But I discovered at the libraries at university the works of Bach-Oven, the Swiss scholar who wrote on mother right, and on Robert Graves, who wrote about matriarchy in early Greece. And this inspired me. And this, I could not get rid of it. It was so interesting that I continued to look for this in every library where I could find it. I couldn't find it under the topic of matriarchy, but I found a lot of material. And it was like putting together a puzzle. And then I noticed that I cannot know really what a matriarchy is only from this history of cultures. So I studied anthropology, and I went to Southwest China, to the Moseo, one of the last living matriarch societies, and did fieldwork there. And so I had many friends from indigenous societies who could talk me about their matriarchal patterns in their societies. So I could put the piece together what a matriarchy really is. It is an egalitarian, mother-led, based on mother-led communities, an egalitarian society based on mother-led communities, and it is consensus-based. And this intrigued me a lot, and I could not get rid of this topic. I went on and went on. And after some years, I could put it together, what matriarchy is, what I learned from my indigenous friends, from several matriarchal societies in Africa, in East Asia, in the Americas, and this was my first book. I'm very happy that it's now translated. It's the first book, the first part of my main work. I'm very happy that it's now translated into Spanish. I can show you. This is a book about matriarchal societies, indigenous cultures worldwide, which really showed what matriarchy is. It's not the mirror image of patriarchy. These are truly egalitarian societies, and how they function and do this to make very complicated politics, not only in small villages, also in larger.
Gracias, Heide. Ahora entonces te mostramos estos otros libros y me dices qué piensas.
The other book, Societies of Peace, speeches and voices from Asia, from Africa, from South America, which are collected in this book, Societies of Peace.
Ahora te vamos a mostrar, Heide, esta otra fotografía.
This is about the International Academy HAGIA in Germany. When I left as a young scholar, the University of Munich, because it was not possible to bring modern matriarchal studies into the university, it's such a patriarchal institution, then I created and established my own free independent academy, HAGIA. It was in 1986. Next year, it existed for 40 years. And I was teaching in this academy for 40 years, and I did research in the academy. And this academy is supported by an association where I experienced a lot of solidarity of many women who supported in private way by their donations this academy. So it could not be silenced by the patriarchal institutions. And today this academy is known internationally, and we continue to teach on international levels.
¿Qué crees tú que es lo más importante que ha logrado la academia?
Yeah. I think the most important success were these 3 world congresses, because we brought together indigenous people from all over the world, and also scholars who are writing about this topic from all over the world. And with these 3 world congresses, the Academy HAGIA became international. And now I'm working in a big network of international scholars and friends, of course, like Ángela. And this is a new level which we reached.
Fue verdaderamente una experiencia fabulosa, muy interesante, porque también fuimos a hacer algunas visitas a algunos sitios importantes en Alemania.
Yeah, one part of teachings in the International Academy HAGIA is, I call it landscape mythology. For we can find matriarchal traces from Neolithic times and later times everywhere, even everywhere in Europe. And I did it here in my local surroundings. I found traces in archaeological finds, in myths, local myths, in special sightlines which connected old cultic places and so on. And I showed this to my friends, my international friends, but this is local work. I'm not only working internationally, I'm also working locally and show it to the local people. And this can be done also everywhere in the world where you live and where you stay, if you understand the method of matriarchal landscape mythology. This is one part of the teaching of matriarchy. For these traces have not been lost, and we can find it out again, which shows at our long matriarchal history in every continent, even in Europe.
Heide, déjeme mostrarle esta foto y me dice qué le recuerda.
This was our meeting in Nashira at a conference which Ángela created. I was there, and Revela from Israel was there, and I enjoyed it a lot to be there and to learn about the women of Nashira and the great work which Ángela did by establishing this women's village of Nashira. She could show us that women lived there together with their sons and their husbands in a truly matriarchal way, taking all decisions in an egalitarian way and sharing their goods with each other, and and creating a wonderful community. It was really I was blown away by my experience of Nashira, and after that I often told my students in my study courses about these wonderful example of a new matriarchal community in Colombia.
Ay, también En Colombia hay esa parte de la parte arqueológica, de la cultura malagana. Te voy a mostrar esta foto y tú me dices qué piensas.
Yes, this was at my anniversary, my 18th anniversary, which we celebrated in Berlin. And Ángela brought me this wonderful sculpture from the Malagana culture. I was so much pleased. I'm so much pleased that Ángela showed me the Malagana culture also in Colombia, what has been found in an archaeological way. It's so important for me, for it enriched my knowledge about the long matriarchal period in every continent.
Muy interesante, ¿verdad? Que se pueda, pues, ver cómo esa cultura que floreció aquí hace 2000 años también puede ser parte de ese estudio. Heidi, te voy a mostrar esta última foto y me dices qué piensas.
Yeah, sure. This is what we are doing with matriarchal today. The situation in the world is so dire and so extremely dangerous with this late phase of patriarchy that we have to give an answer. And I think it's good to give an answer from the matriarchal model. Because the matriarchal model is a peaceful model based on maternal values, the values of care and the values of care, resolving conflicts without violence, and a lot of peace skills. And we want to bring this model into the world. So I created a peaceful coalition of projects today which openly work in a matriarchal way. HAGIA is included, this wonderful creation of Ángela. And we try to bring this knowledge more to the world. We go to big conferences to show the values of matriarchal societies as egalitarian, consensus-based and mother-led. And we will go onto the streets to show it to a more open public what it's really about matriarchy, and that this is an answer in today's dire situation in which patriarchy brought us. This is an answer how we can live in a different way.
Heide, ¿tú crees que este movimiento que estamos haciendo casi desesperadamente las mujeres para salvar el mundo, todavía tenemos tiempo de hacerlo?
I don't know, Ángela. I think it's necessary to bring matriarchy now with its peaceful values in the world. I don't know if we have time. We simply have to do it. I think it's the point. If we don't do nothing, the extreme dangerous situation goes on. But we do something, and I don't think about time. I don't think about success. We simply do it because it must be done. We cannot only teach and speak. We have really to be active and to do something. I hope the time will be for us still long, but I can say clearly the time now is ripe to change the situation to a more peaceful world, and the matriarchal model is helpful in this context. This is why we created this political activism together with Ángela and other great women who have their own matriarchal projects.
Matriarcado ya. Eso es lo que nosotros necesitamos para salvar el mundo. Gracias, Heide. Gracias por habernos acompañado en este programa.
Thank you, Ángela. I also want to thank you to bring the matriarchy idea so actively into the world. You are really a wonderful friend. I thank you too for presenting me in your program here. Thanks.
Nuevamente, Heide, gracias por haber sido parte de mi vida.